don't know if it's part of the show. Welcome to the show. If you don't know, it's part of the show.
Wait a minute. You know, this is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee. A damn fine cup of coffee. A damn fine cup of coffee.
Hello, what ho! Welcome back to another exciting adventure of the Ubercast. And this is going to be a mashup of The Plain Truth and Rethinking Revelation, which is another channel that I started 10 years ago. I started Rethinking Revelation like 10 years ago maybe, and did all of my teaching on the Bible in terms of what was helpful for me as an interpreter and as a student of the Bible, I started that channel not because I felt like what I was going to say is absolute truth, although I do believe that what I did say, for the most part, represents a valid understanding of how to appropriately understand the Bible. I'm a teacher at heart, and so I didn't have an outlet because there's no Christian institution that would allow me to come in and teach what I think the Bible is about. So I had to create a YouTube channel, because then I was putting out content that I was reading for myself and then processing for myself. And my biggest motivation in making Rethinking Revelation is to give people more information so that they have a more well-informed understanding of the matter. They can decide anything they want. They can choose to hold on to their tradition, or they can choose to even form their own independent thoughts. You don't have to agree with me. You just don't hand-wave dismiss me, right? That's not responsible for any amount of content. To just hand-wave dismiss someone because you disagree with the concept, because at the moment when you're taking it into consideration, it's only a concept for you. You haven't thought about it. You haven't evaluated it. You haven't assessed it. You haven't determined its validity. So once you've done that, once you've gone through the process of informing yourself as to what the other side is claiming and appropriately understood that claim, at that point it moves past a concept, because you've tried to treat it with a level of intellectual honesty, and then hopefully you can formulate your reason for, right? So like if I was in a classroom setting and we were all, let's say there's 33 students in the classroom, and it was, hey, what's up, Isabella? Hello. Please make sure you share the show, Isabella. If you haven't already hit that like, please make sure you hit that Fonzarelli. I'm just riffing right now in terms of an introduction. So imagine we're in a classroom setting, and I presented my opinion, and then I asked if anyone disagreed with it. And if someone in the audience raised their hand, then I would say, why do you disagree with it? Right? I want to understand that you understand, first of all, what my position is. And then second of all, I want to understand how it is that you are eliminating my explanation from the table of discussion. And then, is there anyone who agrees with me? Now, somebody raises their hand. Why do you agree with me? Can you defend what it is you think you believe? So that's really the impetus, the motivation, the catalyst behind my creating Rethinking Revelation, which is a double entendre, because I'm talking about rethinking the entire biblical story as a whole, but then also the very last book that everybody seems to be so infatuated with every day today. These are the last times, we're in the last days, the end days, the mark of the beast, and So I'm here to, right now, go back to a video that I made 2 days ago that has 231 views, which is a pretty good amount of views for me, for the most part. So it's interesting. I'd love to know how and why that that number was attained, whether or not it was through people sharing, or whether, oops, I'm just going to look for the comments. Why is it not showing me the comments? That is really weird. I've got the page open, and there's no, why is there no section for comments right here? This is really weird. Okay, So what am I going to do to try to figure this out? Go up here and then go back to somebody who made a comment on my video. There we go. And, oh no, that's not it. This is the other one. This is the James Fetzer one. And there we go. This one.
A flat earth.
The comments. Oh, there we go. Okay. I guess that's really weird that I had to, I'm going to put that here. Okay. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go through these comments. I'm going to try to reiterate for you real quick the primary argument that I was making. First of all, there are prominent flat earth channels that constantly point people to the Bible because the Bible is a flat earth book. The Bible talks about the earth being flat. Okay? And back in 2017, when I made the transition from the heliocentric model to the geocentric model, and by geocentric I don't mean that the earth was a globe and that everything else was a sphere around that globe. I just mean simply that the earth is the center of all creation. And by center, I don't mean spatially, okay? So back in 2017, when I was still going to church and when I was still in pursuit of the Bible in a particular way, I started hearing all of this flat earth discussion referring to the Bible. And I look, I have 2 degrees in biblical studies, and I was a student of the Bible, and still am to a certain extent, but, you know, in a focused sense since, I would say 35 years, 15 years old. I'd probably say I started studying independently on my own when I was 13, 14, 15, maybe 14, 15, somewhere around there. So for 35 years, I'll just say 35 years, okay? So for 35 years, I studied the Bible. I read the Bible. You're going to read a comment, 2 comments in this comment section where they say, why don't you try reading the Bible, dude? Okay? I was at this for 35 years. I've read the Bible. Okay? It's interesting to me how the fingers in the ears and the la 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 la, I can't hear you, tactics happen when something that you hold precious is you feel the threat. Like I don't feel threatened by anyone coming to me with evidence for a globe. Why would I be threatened of the truth? If what you're going to present is the truth, then what do I have to fear if I lose something based on the truth that you're bringing me? Okay? I have a recorded conversation with my own father that I haven't made public yet, but I have been thinking about it because I was on my perambulatory over a month ago, and we ended up talking on the phone because texting was becoming too convoluted, and I knew that wires were being crossed. Oh yeah, seminary student. What were you in seminary for, Isabella? And where are you from? So what was I just saying? Lost my train of thought. Ooh, where'd that train go? What was I just saying? Hand wave dismissals, comments, Canada. Can't even remember what I was saying now. Okay, bring it on back, whatever it is. So we're going to be going through these Rune, who are you asking? But I'll tell you mine. It's called Reformed Theological Seminary. It's a very prominent conservative seminary. It has many, many locations in the... I don't think it has a West Coast representation. I think it started in Jackson. It started in Jackson, Mississippi, and then had different branches, different expressions. So I went down to Orlando, Florida initially, and then I ended up finishing out the same school but a different branch in Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay. Going back. Oh, I started seeing all of these flat earth people referring to the Bible as a flat earth book. And even at that point in 2017, 2018, I had changed my mind about what the Bible was as a work of literature. And so I already knew that people who say the Bible is a flat earth book, if you're a flat earther and you think that the Bible is a flat earth book, you might as well go back to the globe, because you haven't evaluated the evidence. You're just parroting what someone else... Because look, who was the first person to say that the Bible was a flat earth book? Who was the first person to say it? And then the person who said it, and then the person who said it, and then by the time it got to you, who's telling you the Bible is a flat earth book? Did you evaluate? Did you critically evaluate? Or did you just nom, 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 nom? More than likely, you're just parroting. Okay, so that's not responsible research. If you want to simply believe that the Bible is a flat earth book, you might as well go back you might as well go back to the globe, because you're not willing to look at the evidence. It's as simple as that. People who are flat earthers who say the Bible is a flat earth book are like globe flakes who say, we know that boats go over the horizon because we can see them disappear in the distance. That's how weak your argument is. I'm just trying to get an analogy across to you, that you are basing your belief in the Bible being a flat earth book on the testimony of other people. Because I'm giving you contrary testimony. Are you considering my evidence? Are you considering my concept? Are you considering my evaluation? So far, no. Okay, so let's go through these comments, and I'll try to make it as succinct as possible. Let's see. Seminary means a place you educate coming teachers, where I am from, but I take it in the strict sense. The term seminary for the longest time as I know it, was referred to as a theological training center. But I can completely understand, just because teachers in the past were called doctors, right? Doctor. I wouldn't see why seminary became at some point, I'm sure, transitioned over into a purely religious education center. Seminary is teaching the teachers. Yeah, it is where the next leaders are parroted the word of God from a doctrine they interpret, rather given a Masonic interpretation. Yeah, so for me, the Masonic interpretation is very difficult, because I was training for the ministry, right? I wasn't training for Masonic indoctrination. So I would never have thought that what I was teaching from the Bible was Masonic. So if you're going to come against, I'm not saying Isabella's doing this, I'm just saying, so if someone's going to come against me and say, the churches just teach Masonic, doctrines, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like the guy who's pastoring the church that I was in for the past 15 plus years, he's not Masonic. He doesn't like, it's almost like talking about, the levels of deception in the education system. Like Granny Smith, who teaches first graders, she's not a Mason. she might teach things that she hasn't critically thought through that have Masonic origins, right? But that doesn't mean that she's a Mason, okay? So, yeah, just the majority of Christian pastors, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to challenge what it is that they do say, because you can't just libel the full Catholic Church or the full Protestant Church that came out of Catholicism. And for the longest time, the Protestants closer to the Reformation period in the 16th century were closer to Catholicism than today's Protestant Church, because it was so close to the schism that there was still a lot of carryover, a lot of similarities. So you would have to then say that the early Protestant church was Masonic. But again, it's not just enough to say what it is. Like, show me what you mean. Like, I'm interested in learning from you. I want to know what it is that you know. Can you please show me what you mean by the Bible being Masonic? It's no different than me challenging Santo Spinaci or Lindsay Harris over at Tomb of Illumination when they talk about their astrotheology. Oh, the Bible's an astrotheological book. Look, the number 666 and the shape of the 6 looks like the sine wave pattern and the magnetic. What are you talking about? When you read the Greek, it doesn't show you a 6. It gives you the word in Greek, right, that equals out to be 666. But it doesn't show you the symbol of the sine wave that you're interpreting to be like, oh, we know that the Bible this is an astrotheology reference, and I'm the only one who can tell you what it means because I've looked into Look, I'm, again, with Lindsay Harris, I have, all I have seen from Lindsay is the same thing that I've seen from Santo Spinaci. They simply say, this is that, and they don't back up what they're saying. They don't explain what they're saying. Right? So I have to try to avoid that complication for myself as well, because I'm saying certain things that I want people to have more information about, okay? You can disagree with me. That's fine. All right. Every word you are saying, I believe, is inspired by the Holy Spirit. You are on base, and I believe the Holy Spirit is leading you. Well, I appreciate that compliment, but I might not completely agree with your compliment, but anyway, it's no big deal. All right, so we're going to go through this. Okay. Oh, so let me reiterate in case you haven't seen the previous video that was on stop calling. I was as shocked as you when I saw how much of my own beliefs were not. Okay. So just to reiterate my position based on my video that I made 2 days ago. The Bible is not a flat earth book, and my primary argument for that is that the English word earth is an interpretation of the original language of Hebrew and Greek for the word land, okay? So the way that I'm saying it is the Bible has no concept of earth. It doesn't envision the entire system, which is what the word for us, earth, means. Okay? It's like hey, what's up, Instacart? It's like the greater to the lesser, right? So in Hebrew, there are 2 words that I can think of right now that are correlated but are not the same. Eretz and Adamah. Eretz means land. Adamah means ground. Okay? Why is there a difference? Why? Now, the Adamah is a smaller portion, ground. The ground, whatever. But land has a more distant concept to it, or a broader concept to it, but not extensive in terms of the entire world. Okay? We have to think about just conceptually of as far as the eye can see. I see land as far as the eye can see. Okay? That's land. And I'm standing on the ground, right? So you get what I'm saying? So that there are differences. So for us, that's the concept for us. Earth has this massive, almost global, worldwide connotation, while land is more of the... So you're comparing... Okay, let me say it this way. In the Bible, land to ground is what in the English earth to land is. Land, ground. Earth, land. When we hear, or I'll just say it this way, when I was a student of the Bible and was reading passages that talked about the earth, I had in my mind the entire world. That is not in the Bible. The Bible does not think along those lines. Okay? A lot of this, that I'm saying is going to have to be investigated by you. If you have any interest in this, you're going to have to take into consideration what I'm saying. And I think that once you allow that lens to be the filter through which you start to look, you're going to see things differently. Secondly, okay, so then the English word earth is an interpretation. Okay, it's not a translation. It is not a translation. A translation is going to give you a one-to-one correspondence. Okay? And if you think that any version of the Bible that you are reading is a translation, I'm sorry to tell you, you're absolutely wrong. Every translation is an interpretation. It cannot be a strict one-to-one correspondence. It's just impossible. The only way to do that is to read the original language. And if you read the original language, you don't have these connotations of earth and land. That's why they have two different words. Okay? Let this sink in. The reason why they have a word for land and a word for ground is because they're two different concepts. We have allowed the scholars to give us 10 different options of connotation where that's not in the Bible. You cannot justify translating Eretz as earth. Ever. You can't do it. You can try, but it's going to fail miserably unless you just want to jam that square peg into a round hole. Now, the last thing to say about these comments, okay? So my big, sorry I'm just rambling, but whatever. My video, the main point is earth is incorrect. You should never translate Eretz in the Bible as earth. You should never translate gay in the Greek as earth. Stop doing it. Earth does not exist in the Bible's narrative. Has no place in it. So, all of the comments that we're going to see in this comment section completely ignore my major claim in my video. You'll see them appeal to what they will. Okay? The Bible says, this is from Chessboxer 35. The Bible says the earth is fixed. Done. Okay? The Bible doesn't say the earth is fixed. There is no reason to translate the word earth. Okay? It's the land. Well, how does that change the meaning, Travis? You have to understand the broader. So the Bible is not just this this collection of ideas that people just wrote down this story and then just compiled it. It is a masterful mosaic of tapestry where threads and themes are woven in and out and used back again and zigzagged, and it is a literary masterpiece. Okay? It's not just this random collection of just just ideas that people had or whatever. Okay? So the land, and the skies. Well, the sky, because there's only one, but they're called the Shamayim, right? Which is plural, okay? So the skies, or the heavens and the land in biblical narrative are closely tied to Israel's relationship with her God. If you read Deuteronomy, you will see God's explanation of when the people obey, the heavens will pour forth rain and the land will produce food. When the people are in rebellion against their God, then the heavens will be shut up like bronze and the earth will dry up. Okay, so the land, the stability of the land is tied to Israel's covenant relationship with her deity. Okay? So it's not making a comment about flat earth. It's not making a comment that you can use against the earth being a globe. Because the globe earth, the ball is moving. And it's moving, so it can't be fixed. But you're making this passage talk about something it's not talking about. And you don't have the prerogative to do that. You can't just do that. All right, well, I appreciate that, Isabella. I appreciate that. Sometimes I feel like I'm just rambling, but good. Okay, so look, Chessboxer 35. The Bible says the earth is fixed. No, it doesn't. It says the land is fixed, and I just gave you an idea for understanding that the stability of the land has to do with the representation of Israel's healthy or diseased relationship with her God, okay? And cannot be moved. Again, the idea of the land being unstable is like an earthquake, right? So it cannot be moved. But when the earth is shaking, that means that in their narrative that the relationship with God has been negatively impacted. Okay, the sun has a circuit. Okay, whatever. This has no reference. I can't look this up. The earth has four corners. Okay. Literally, right? Is this person saying that the earth has four corners? Can you show me those four corners? I'll wait. This is figurative. You're just proving my point. It's all allegory? ? It's all allegory? Yup. It's all allegory. Christ is an allegory? Yup. Okay? So now I said to him, did you even listen to my argument? Your argument is that any scripture that contradicts the spinning ball earth should be taken as allegory. But you, or rather men, decide which scripture is literal and which is allegory. Like Christians who accept Big Bang evolution, who say that the 6 days are not literal, right? This is a complete waste of time, a complete non sequitur. He's bringing up points that don't follow from what I've said, and he's creating a straw man. I mean, this is not even worth responding to, because nothing I said would lead to... The only reason why someone would say this is because they are not paying attention to what I have said already. Okay? All right. So here's my response. What? Where the smurf did you come up with that bull smurf? Are you intentionally here to waste my time? Oh, good argument. Okay, whatever. All right, so let's go to the next one. This is from Dire Straits. Having been a student of the Bible for many years and having been familiar with the word eretz, not referring to land, and having been familiar with the word eretz referring to land and not earth, this argument has been around for a long time to assert that the Great Flood didn't necessarily demand that the whole earth was underwater. However, observations indicate that it was at one time. Okay, so yeah, I mean, in terms of this, the concept is that the flood, if we just understand that the flood covered the whole land, it's just a local expression of flooding. Okay. I don't want to necessarily read with the people or read the comments that agree with me. Okay, this one. This is from John the Morgile. And so he says, so maybe concave is a better adjective. I agree that flat earth is a response to the alleged sphere that we all once believed. Well, what I mean by flat earth, just like the globe earth is an expression of just like the globe earth is an expression of the psyop that was created by that concept, they had to create the antithesis as well. They had to create the antagonist. Their protagonist is the globe earth. The antagonist to the globe earth is flat earth. My point was, we didn't create that. No flat earther would have ever called the earth flat. Flat earth wouldn't exist. If we didn't have a globe model, no one would ever call the earth flat. It wouldn't exist. Do you understand what I'm saying? Listen very carefully. I'm going to say this again. Let's create a universe where the globe was never brought forth as an interpretation of the physical cosmos. What would we talk about? We would just simply talk about distance and elevation. We would never, ever, 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 ever call the earth flat. Flat earth would not exist without the globe earth propaganda. Okay? But to answer John's point on the concavity, no. Concave is another, this is my opinion. Just like the world never looks convex, the world never looks concave. Everything that is concave or convex is up in the air in terms of looking at the sky and interpreting what we see up above the earth. But if John wants to present, or if anyone else wants to present what you think it looks like a concave image of the distance, you can't just show me one image. I hope you realize that. You can't just show me one image. I can't just show you one image of the thousands of photographs and videos that I have and say this is proving I have to have a control. Okay? I've never seen, in 5 years of research, I've never seen the earth look concave. Ever. I've never seen the earth look convex. Ever. All I've ever seen is a change in the distance, either with altitude or with proximity. Do you get what I mean by that? The x-axis and the y-axis, right? Or the z-axis. The y-axis and the z-axis. The z is altitude and the y is the distance. Whatever. Okay? Right, whatever. Okay, here we go. Here's an open-minded live music. I'm open-minded, but I just had to stop at 2.5 minutes. If you don't take the Bible as literal and don't think any verses describe a motionless, flat earth, again, you're using a term that I'm debunking. The Bible is not about the earth. What do you mean by earth? Do you mean the entire world? That's not what the Bible means. Then you are clueless. He calls me clueless. Okay, so this is not even worth. I'm not even going to continue reading. Okay, here's another one. Somebody who doesn't pay attention to the argument that's being made. Christopher Schultz. On the day the Lord gave the Amorites over to Israel, Joshua said to the Lord in the presence of Israel, sun, stand still over Gibeon, and you, moon, over the valley of Ayala. Okay? Like he just quoted, like, okay? So again, think about this. Let me, click the wrong button. Okay? So there's no reference to the earth, and there's no reference to land in here in this comment by Christopher Schultz. So my question is, who's he arguing? Well, what happens when the earth. What happens when the earth suddenly stops? Like, who are you? This is a non sequitur. This is a non sequitur. This is a waste of my time. Here we go. SS did it. The earth takes shape like a clay under seal. First of all, that's not a translation. Second of all, earth should be translated land. Okay? My question is, this is from Morgile again. My question to you is whether you believe the Bible telegraphs spinning. But see, I don't understand with this was this dictation gone wrong or what? I don't know. I don't know how to reinterpret this. My question to you is whether you believe the Bible telegraphs spinning ball Earth. If not, then it is by default a flat Earth book. John, no, it's not, because the Earth that you're talking about here, the Earth here, I can only imagine that you're imagining the entire collection of continents. The Bible never thinks along those lines. The Bible never thinks of the entire system of continental land masses. I don't know how to say this. How can I say this again? The Bible is not a book about the earth. And by earth, I'm talking about the entire system of continents. The Bible is a book about land. It is a book about local, proximate land. If it ever is about distant land, it names the land of Shinar, the land of Babylon, the land of Egypt, the land of Cush, the land of Corinth, the land of Galatia. It names the land. When it talks about land, it's never, ever, ever about all 7 continents. It doesn't have that concept. I don't know how... It does not have that concept. You're reading... It's like you've walked down the street, you found a love letter. You don't even know if it's a man to a woman or a woman to a man or whatever. It's just one lover to another. And then you read a line and go, oh, this means this to me. You can't do that. That's not why he wrote that. You are deconstructing and disturbing the meaning of the original intent, of the author's intent. You can't do that. There is only one meaning. You know. Hey, what's going on, Adam? The original terminology and how it's translated. Yeah, I mean, it took me a long time to be comfortable changing my mind about this. But anyway, I appreciate the Morgile's interaction here. He says, at least in terms of Christian globetards, I realize your advanced level in all these topics, but I try to work toward the newbie norms with eyes to hear and ears to see. Again, I don't have a problem with you breaking stuff down to the newbies for simplicity, but this is an error. This is an error. Okay, look, John knows this. What is the strongest evidence for the anti-globe geography? It is simply science, physical measurements. We don't need a magic book from God to tell us what to believe. Or do you like being indoctrinated? Because that's what you're doing. Why do you need this special book? Why do you need this book? You believe, this is a completely different rant that I'm not going to follow up on. you believe certain things about the Bible that you probably have not challenged or falsified or justified for that matter. Okay? Whatever your spiritual expression is, I encourage you to live that out to your fullest. Live it out to your fullest. But when you make public comments that are open to scrutiny, don't blame me for liking debate. Don't blame me for liking to be argumentative. When you open up your mouth and say something ignorant, I'm going to correct it. And if I'm incorrect, then you can respond with a healthy, amicable response. I'm not here to beat you up, but I am here to correct you. Just like I saw Dave Weiss in one of his videos, he had on a shirt that said Psalms 119. That's just a grammar Nazi nail on the chalkboard sound in my brain, a splinter in my brain. Okay, look, it's Psalm 1, Psalm 2, Psalms 1 through 10, right? Psalms is the collection of more than one psalm. But if you're referring to Psalm 119, verses 1 through 2, right? A verse is singular. Verses is plural. Psalm is singular. Psalms is plural. It's not Psalms 1. It's just like it's not Revelations 12. Stop. When you say those things, you just show that you don't have an awareness of, I guess, specificity, right? Clarity. I don't know. Personal meanings can be gleaned from other things, but it's purely personal according to what's going on in your life. It's not, I'm not saying that you can't be affected by what you read. Like if you find this love letter, my point is that the love letter itself ought to impact you. You don't have the right to impose your interpretation on what the author was saying. You just don't have that right. So hopefully I'm trying to make sense of it. I'm not saying that you can't be impressed by somebody's poetic expression and have, get the goosebumps or whatever just because you see how beautiful his love is or her love is for her lover. Okay. Here we go. Another waste of time comment. Trouble about two celestial poles are impossible on a flat earth. Impossible. Got nothing to do. Oh, here's a question that I asked of Derek. Did he respond? Okay. He says, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Now, I didn't want to assume what he meant by that, so I said, what's that mean? I just figure since we weren't around to interview the authors, we can't know for sure how much of the Bible is meant to be literal versus allegorical. By making an assumption one way or the other, a person could miss out on valuable information. Okay, so this is a valid response, right? This is a peaceful exchange. Okay, now Derek and I are close friends, and so there's no reason why we would be antagonistic toward each other. But I am going to offer up my explanation for why I disagree with what he's saying here. Every source of information has a limit to its application, which depends upon one thing and one thing only. What is the source of information you're using? If we're talking about investigating the world, then it's going to be physical science. Okay, physical science. So I pulled up ChatGPT here and asked the question, what evidence is there that the Earth is not a globe? Okay, I didn't want to, well, whatever. What evidence is there the Earth is not a globe? Here's Monica's answer. There is no credible evidence that the Earth is not a globe. Okay, that's just absolutely false because evidence has to be interpreted. So the evidence is there. You have to think about it this way. If someone says, I have 10 evidences that the Earth is a globe, those are the same evidences that the Earth is not a globe. Why? Because those are just physical science observations. You still have to interpret what you're seeing. Or you still have to offer up a cause and effect, right? So when we talk about science, there is a certain level of science that is mechanical, cause and effect. But there's also science that is, I'm just making this up the top of my is more like informational, so that you have the Bible, right? There is a science to reading the Bible. I think this. Why do you think that? It's in the Bible. Oh, so I'm just supposed to take your word for it that the Bible is saying what you say. No, that's irresponsible. That's just indoctrination. I should just believe anything anyone ever says, right? Because that's the basic for it. So if you believe this, and then you believe this because the Bible says so, then we have to go to the source to determine whether or not what you think has any validity. Okay? Excuse me while I clean off my glasses. I feel like there's a smudge there. Okay? So going back to answering Derek's question, right? I've noticed there's... Yeah, I'm going to go back. I can't remember why I brought this up. Okay, so here's my initial response, with more to say, but my initial response to Derek is, if someone wants to suggest that the Bible is literal and allegorical, do you understand already by saying that what the problem is going to be? How do you determine which is which? The only proper interpreter, the inward. Love it. Love it, Cleary. Welcome to the show. If you guys wouldn't mind, please share the show. Please make sure you smash that Fonzarelli and keep the chat moving along. I appreciate it. Okay. Oh, yeah. Literal versus allegorical. So Derek's point is that we can't know for sure how much of the Bible is meant to be literal or allegorical. This was my conundrum as I wrapped up my story as a traditional conservative Bible teacher. I understood at some point I was trying to hold on to the Bible being literal. I was trying. You can go back to my Rethinking Revelation channel on YouTube, Rethinking Revelation, and look up a lot of my earlier videos where I will say things that I disagree with now because I was trying to hold on to a literal. I wasn't a flat earther at that time. Okay? But I was making a transition, and I began to see, I understood, I can't, this part, either it's all allegorical or it's all literal. You can't have it both ways. Because the escape clause, the get out of jail free card, the King's X, these aren't the droids you're looking for, Jedi mind trick is that, we always know when the Bible is allegorical because it tells us. That is the biggest load of horse feathers. Shout out to Steve Brown. The biggest load, or even foghorn leghorn. That is the biggest load of horse feathers. Because there are numerous places where the Bible has to be allegorical and it doesn't introduce it that way. So, again, going back to Derek's comment, there is one inerrant, infallible and inerrant interpreter of Scripture. It's the Scripture itself. You have to use the internal witness so that you see a phrase used here, and if you see a phrase used here, and you see a phrase used here, you then bring those, but you use all of those together, and then they all will balance each other out. It doesn't mean one thing over here, and it doesn't mean another thing. Doing that is I don't even know how to, that, either the people who first started that out are the ones who set out to deceive, because in my opinion, just like saying that if the earth were, if we lived in a country that was secluded from Western education and we had no idea that, let's say for instance, in 1970, they discovered this massive island somewhere in the South Pacific, right? And they went to those people and started showing them pictures of the Earth from space. The people who were seeing that would have no, like, what is this? Like, that's not what we live on. We just live, and then there's water, right? So like if you're on an island and you're surrounded by water, and you get out in that water and you just go and go and go, and then you go like, oh, we ran out of food, we had to come back. At no point would you ever think that you were going over a curve. Nor would you ever describe the earth as flat. You just wouldn't, because you live on an island, the island is higher than the water, and the land goes below the water. That's not flat. Okay, you would never have just... So, describing the Bible as literal would never happen. Never happen. If you gave the Bible to someone who's never read it, and who has the most limited amount of predisposition, like they don't know anything about it really, and you just say, here, read this. I want to pay you for your time. Take a year and read this. The person at the end of that year would not be a literalist. I'd make that prediction. I'd put money on that. He wouldn't say, oh, this part's literal, this part's not, this part's literal, this part's not. He would understand the entire thing. So then the difficulty with teaching anyone is every level of teaching has to do with indoctrination to a certain extent. You have to make assertions. Otherwise, you have to qualify everything, and just qualification after quality, you will die the death of 1,000 cuts. Overqualification, it would just be unending. But at some point, I really don't know how. Like if I were going to, if I were going to start a class on how to read the Bible, and I am the master, right? Because I'm the teacher. That's me. Like no one else is up here. Like if you want to get up and teach, go ahead. You're the master. So I'm teaching a class. I'm the master. I'm the doctor. One of the things that I have said is one of the questions that I've asked is, where would I start? If I were going to start teaching a class on how to read the Bible, where would I start? Would I start at Genesis? Would I start at Deuteronomy? Would I start at Isaiah? In my podcast, I suggested that I would start at Isaiah. Because then, I would go, like, what is Isaiah based on? Isaiah is based on the law. Well, where is the law? The law is in Deuteronomy, right? So then Deuteronomy influences Isaiah. Isaiah is going to say things that Isaiah says, but Isaiah isn't making these things up himself. He's basing it on the law, Deuteronomy. So now let's start with Deuteronomy. But in order to understand Deuteronomy, I have to read Isaiah too. Because first of all, you and I aren't the original audience. We don't live in that world. We don't know why they say things the way they say things. Okay? Like Genesis chapter 1. At the end of each day's creation, it says, and it was evening and it was morning. Day 6. Okay? And it was evening and it was morning. Day 1. Or it was evening and it was morning 1 day. It was evening and morning 2 day. 3 day. 4 day. I'm going to make a point right here. There's a difference between ordinal, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, order, ordinal, and cardinal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In Genesis 1, I don't know if you ever thought about this or if you've ever looked into this, it doesn't say the first day. It doesn't say the second day. Those are ordinal references. That's not what the original text says. The original text says day 1, day 2, day 3, or 3 day, 4 day, 5 day. Okay? So if you read a translation that says the 6th day, that is an interpretation that you are either going to swallow hook, line, and sinker, or you're going to look into and evaluate. But here's my point. In order to read the Bible, you have to have more information. You just have to. And the more information that you get is from the Bible itself. You read this passage, you read this passage, you read this passage, you take notes on the first passage, you think, oh, da, 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 da. And by the time you get to the 11th book that you're reading, something the 11th book says harkens back to the first book. And then you have these two, like, oh, I have this idea here and this idea here, and they're both saying, but I have to change what I thought here because this is showing me more information. And with this more information, I come back and correct this. That's how you do Bible study. You don't exclusively rely on the scholars because they have a bias. When I was making the transition from my tradition, I was reading a handful of scholars that didn't agree with each other. Okay? Let's just say it was 5. 5 scholars that didn't agree with each other. They each had certain things that I appreciated, and I thought that they argued their position well. But I didn't agree with all of them. And I didn't agree with all of them in the same way. But what I became was this mashup of all of them and then something more. Like I went where they weren't willing to go. I went where they weren't willing to go. Because I saw that the primary ideas, the primary concepts had residual effects that if you push this rock, this is where it's gonna go. If you don't want it to go in that direction, don't push that rock. So if you don't want to have the sweater that is your Bible come unraveled, don't pull a string. Don't do it. Just leave it where it is. Hang it in the closet. Just Ziploc, vacuum seal it. And just leave it the way it is and just worship that sweater. Because if you allow yourself to be corrected by the Bible, you will not end up being that cookie cutter idea of Christian or whatever. So, okay, so going back, let's try to reiterate one more time, literal versus allegorical. All of it is allegorical, every single one of it. But that doesn't mean that I get to make up what the allegory is. The Bible tells me what the allegory is. The Bible uses its language over and over and over and over again over a multitude of sources, whether or not they're in the Bible or not, okay? So here's a point about Enoch, okay? Enoch is written in the same time period as the minor prophets, major and the minor prophets. and it's about Israel. Therefore, Enoch is going to agree with the Bible over its primary narrative. And its primary narrative has nothing to do with anything more than Israel on the land in relationship to Israel's God. So that all of the references in Enoch have to be brought into that, or brought under that umbrella. Enoch is not going to contradict anything that I'm saying about what the Bible story is. Enoch is not going to contradict. It's going to be in complete agreement with it. Just like if you were to talk about the book of Jonah, right, or the book of Job, both of those stories are allegories. They're not about literal human beings. They're not about a literal man named Job, a literal man named Jonah. It's just not. And we understand that because we see other aspects of the Bible's story used in allegory. Okay, so let me jump over real quick to Galatians. I don't know if it's 2 or not. Galatians. I don't know if I can look for... It's been a while since I've read through this, but oh no, I know where it's at. It's okay. Talking about the law, talking about Israel's relationship under the law. Here we go. All right, so this is Galatians 4. Galatians 4, example of Hagar and Sarah. All right, Hagar and Sarah are two characters in the book of Genesis. Both are mothers to the children of Abram or Abraham. Okay, so this is the information that I wanted to bring up. Okay, here we go. Tell me, you who desire to be under the law, do you not listen to the law? For it is written that Abraham had 2 sons, one by a slave woman, Hagar, and one by a free woman, Sarah. Now, this is English. I can go to the Greek for you if you want, but I don't want to, kill what I've already killed in terms of people's attention span, because this is much longer than I was hoping I was going to spend on. But here we go. Now, this may be interpreted allegorically. Okay? So Paul, in my opinion, is describing the fact that this story of Abraham and Sarah and Hagar is an allegory. Paul understood the Old Testament is a story of stories of stories of stories. Now, all of those stories are based on the expression of what is called the Torah. Okay, the Torah is translated as law, it's translated as teaching, instruction. Okay? So, this story was meant to be understood allegorically. And in my opinion, this is where we get the idea that the other characters are allegorical as well. All right, so let's go back. All right, here we go. Here comes someone. Here's Christopher Schultz again, quoting the KJV. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Again, you're bringing up something that's being debunked. You are begging the question. I'm debunking that earth is a proper translation. Foundations of the land. The land, again, is central to understanding Israel's relationship with her God. Here we go. This is awesome. Nick Brown. You must not know anything about biblical Hebrew cosmology. Didn't talk about that at all. So this is a complete waste of time. All right, so here we go. This is John the Morgile one more time. So, can I then assume you espouse the position that the Bible teaches a spherical rotating earth? This is a non sequitur, John. An absolute non sequitur. This means that you didn't listen to what I was saying. The Bible doesn't talk about the earth. Right? So, why didn't you say, can I then assume you espouse the position that the Bible teaches a spherical rotating land? Why didn't you use the word land? Because earth has a particular connotation to it, which is my point. The Bible's idea of earth your idea of earth doesn't exist in the Bible. So it's completely non sequitur to talk about a spherical rotating earth being taught in the Bible, because the Bible is not about the earth as a collection of continents. It's always about local expressions of the land in terms of Israel's proximity. Yeah, I know, right? Giving me a headache. It's maddening. Like, you expect this kind of ill behavior and ignorance from ballers, but this is part of what I'm trying to show is that even flat earth Bible believing Christians, whatever, aren't willing to take into consideration a contrary view, which is why I made this. Like, again, Dave Weiss, Brian Stavely, Matt Long, any other prominent flat earth channel who says that the Bible is a flat earth book, I'm challenging you to debunk me. Because I can tell you for a fact, well, I would say 99.9% fact, that Dave Weiss is only parroting the Bible is a flat earth book. Like, he never looked into it himself. He just heard someone say the Bible is a flat earth book. He then looked up translations that I'm saying are incorrect because they don't, the Bible doesn't have the idea of earth. It should not be translated earth. If you read, I'm just going to have to do this. If you read the Bible in its original language, it would only have one word, eretz. I'm going to have to find this because I didn't take time to look for it. So, Isaiah, I don't even know if it was Isaiah or Jeremiah. Let me go to Jeremiah. Jeremiah 1. Let me look up real quick. Hey, Kelly, I appreciate that. Thanks so much. I do appreciate it. If you do appreciate what you're hearing, please make sure you share the show. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm looking for a place where we see land and earth in the same sentence, okay? So I don't know if I can specifically, can I look for just word? All right, so here we go. Let's just look here. Jeremiah 1. The word of the Lord came to me a second time. Out of the north disaster shall be let loose upon all the inhabitants of the land. Okay? So who are all the inhabitants of the land? Okay? Just looking for earth to show up and then see if we can find a justification for. Now here we go. This is great, right? This is where I think this is the whole land. The whole land. Now if you look up, how about we do this? If you look up another translation, it's not going to say the whole land. It's going to say the whole earth. So let's look that up real quick. Let's do this. Let's do this. Jeremiah chapter 1. All right. Jeremiah chapter 1, NIV. Where was I? 18. All right. So Jeremiah 1:18. Oh, it says the whole land. That's good. All right. So That's pretty good. I was surprised. I'm surprised to see that. So let's see. From the north, disaster will be poured out on all who live in the land. That's the inhabitants of the land, right? So again, this is talking about the local expression. I want to find a different translation just to see, because I was really surprised. Let's see what the KJV says. Inhabitants of the land. Land. You know what? This is so funny. I'm almost feeling like Mandela right now, because we are going to find one where we see all right. All I have to do is find one example. And I could have probably gone to Isaiah, like I said, because so here we go. So the land of Egypt, right? That's the proper designation for a distant land. But it never says the land of North America, because the Bible isn't talking about those things, right? Who led us in the wilderness? In a land of deserts and pits, right? You don't say in an earth of drought and deep darkness, in an earth, right? So we don't see it translated earth here. So all we have to do is find a verse that has earth in it, and then see if it's Eretz. And if it is, the question becomes, why did they translate it earth here and not land? This is where I should be playing music, because right now, I'm going to do that right now because I'm going to have to look this up. So here's some King Reed for you. Not sure why. Yeah, so I don't know why what I just did right now just shut down. Yeah, so I don't know why what I just did right now just shut down the music. Because I was just trying to turn off the okay, geez. All right, sorry about this. Take back Space TV. All right, so we'll let that play while I'm looking for Earth. To see if I can look up something specific. Let me go to Isaiah though. All right, here we go. Okay, here we go. I should have just done. I should have just done this, right? Okay, here we go. The vision of Isaiah, the son of Amoz, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, kings of Judah. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth. That's the word Eretz. Why are you interpreting the connotation to be something different than just land? Okay? So we need to now find the word land. Here we go. Your country, that's what we're talking about. A localized expression of land. Your country lies desolate. Your cities are burned with fire. In your presence, foreigners devour your earth. That's not what it says. It says land. But this is the same word as Eretz that's translated as earth here. Now, someone might argue that say, oh, well, we know that the word Eretz has a connotation of earth because it's being contrasted here with heavens and earth, right? And again, heavens is the English, I hate this box that comes up. Heavens is the English word that is chosen to translate Shemayim. Okay, but Shemayim doesn't mean heavens. Okay? All right. So someone might say, oh, Travis, here's the reason. Heavens and earth are contrasted here. So the heavens is the sky, and the earth is the, is the entire, like, you can't justify, because when you're standing out in the wilderness and you look into the distance, you see the sky and the land, the heavens and the land. I'm saying that earth carries with it this connotation of the entire system, and that is not what the Bible means by this. Okay, so now we need to find out who the heavens and the land are, right? Because Isaiah, actually, the Lord is saying, the Lord has spoken, hear, O heavens. He's addressing two groups. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth. So who's listening? Is this figurative? It doesn't tell me it's figurative. Is this literal? It doesn't tell me it's literal. So do the heavens hear? Does the land listen? This is figurative, and it doesn't tell you to interpret it that way. Okay? So now let's go down to chapter 2, because I know that chapter 2 has this contrast again. Okay? Now, the word that Isaiah the son of Amoz saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, it shall come to pass in the latter days, at the end of days. This is a ubiquitous phrase that's in the Bible, and you see it for the first time in Genesis chapter 4. And it came to pass, it shall come to pass, and it came to pass in the latter days. But that's not how they translate it in Genesis chapter 1 or Genesis chapter 4. Okay? So let me go to the part where maybe it was trying to find where it shows that he's talking to two different people groups. Hold on. And now let me put the music back on. And I thought he was talking to... I'm going to skip it over again. I might have skipped over it again because it's been a while. Okay, so because it's like he talks... Oh, there we go. See, it was in chapter 1. Okay? So this is what I mean by the Bible is its own interpreter. The Bible is going to tell you right now who the heavens and the earth are. Okay? So let's read. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O land, for Yahweh has spoken. Children I have reared and brought up, but they have rebelled against me. The ox knows its owner, and the donkey its master's crib, but Israel does not know. My people do not understand. Ah, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, offspring of evildoers, children who deal corruptly. They have forsaken, they have despised, they are utterly estranged. Skipping down. Now, hear the word of the Lord, you rulers of Sodom. Wait a minute, I thought that Isaiah was talking to Jerusalem. Yeah, it's using a metaphor right here. It's referring to a sinful city called Sodom. Okay, but look here. It doesn't say, hear the word of the Lord, O heavens. But it says, hear the word of the Lord, you rulers. Give ear to the teaching of our God, you people of Gomorrah. Verse 10 is the same as verse 2. Hear, O heavens, give ear, O land. Who are those who are supposed to listen? The rulers. Isaiah is speaking to people. He's not speaking to the heavens and the land, literally, because the land doesn't have ears. So then we have to understand why the Bible uses these phrases, heaven and earth, or heaven and land, as a designation for Jerusalem, or for Israel. Okay, so now let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 32. Okay, here we go again. This is called the Song of Moses. Then Moses spoke the words of this song until they were finished in the ears of all the assembly. So now when it says give ear, it's talking to the assembly of Israel. But it doesn't say that. It says poetically, give ear, O heavens, and I will speak. And let the land hear the words of my mouth. I'm just trying to show you that I believe there's justification for understanding that the Bible uses the heavens and the land as a symbolic reference to Israel. And we have to look for that justification in the source itself. We can't just make up, and you can't just get out of the responsibility of listening to my debunk by saying, oh, well, we can't just make up anything. The Bible, we can't just say that the Bible is about anything. I never said that you could. I'm not taking that position. What I am saying to you, Mr. Naysayer, is the Bible is your correction. You have a misunderstanding of what the Bible means by what it says. And the Bible says what it means over and over and over and over again, but you're not paying attention. Okay? So we have here, I think, justification that the heavens and the earth, or that, see, I fall back into it, it's like referring to the globe sometimes, that the heavens and the land are talking about the assembly of Israel. This is just simple. All right, now let's go back to Isaiah, but Isaiah 65. Isaiah 65, okay? All right, so Isaiah 65, verse 17. For behold, I create new Shemayim and new Eretz. For behold, I create new heavens and a new land. And the former things shall not be remembered or come to mind. But be glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. What are you creating, Almighty God? For behold, I create Jerusalem. I create heavens. And I create her people to be a gladness, a new land. Right here, within 2 verses, we have the explanation, or rather the allusion of interpretation. What should we understand by heavens? Jerusalem. What should we understand by land? People. What is God recreating? He's not recreating the literal physical universe. The heavens and the earth are a symbol for Israel's renewal. Okay? For behold, I create a new former. Former is that which came before, new is that which follows. Right here, we have the understanding that the Old Testament was teaching that there is going to come a point in time in the latter days when one matrix is swapped out for another. When one system that started, the former system, right? We had to learn how to ride a bicycle with training wheels. That's what the law is. The law is training wheels. At some point, you grow up and you take the training wheels off and you can ride the bicycle. But the leaders of Israel, when you read the New Testament, they didn't want to let go of their law. They didn't want to let go of that which was supposed to pass away. And the Old Testament taught them that it was going to. Paul talks about it in Galatians. He says that we are now at the end. We are now in a new season. Okay? So let me go back to what I was thinking of right here. The term create. Okay? I create. The Bible is pretty specific about God's creation. But what is it that he creates, right? So let's look, this is just going to be what it is. Okay, Romans chapter 8. Okay? Let's see. Trying to find there it is. Okay. For I, Paul, for I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is about to be. Okay, now I know more than you, which is fine. Okay, the word mellow is an adverb, okay, and it means about to. But they don't translate it that way because they have a bias that there are certain things that the Bible hasn't, there are certain things in the Bible that haven't come to pass yet because they have a literal understanding of heavens and earth. Okay? But for the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, that the creation itself will be set free from its bondage to corruption. Okay? The language here is the language of being enslaved by Torah. What is the creation? It's Israel. When did God create Israel? Genesis chapter 1. Okay? So let's go back to Deuteronomy 32 or Deuteronomy 31. Okay? Because he talked about he talks about Israel's rebellion against God and refers back to the fact that he created them. Okay? Let me put the music back on while I look for this. That's why, because I was looking in chapter 31. I was like, what? Why is this not making sense to me? Okay, so give ear, O heavens, and I will speak, and let the land hear the words of my mouth. All right, here we go. Do you thus repay the Lord, you foolish and senseless people? Is not he your father who created you, who made you and established you? Okay? This is a key refrain. Created and established. Made and established. Created, made and established. The only thing besides Israel in Deuteronomy 32, the only thing that God ever created and made and established is creation. But what is the creation? So now let's go to Psalm 102. Okay, now Psalm 102 is a poem about the temple being diseased because of the people's sins. So I'm just going to read it, whatever. Hear my prayer, O Lord, let my cry come to you. Do not hide your face from me in the day of my distress. Incline your ear to me. Answer me speedily in the day when I call. For my days pass away like smoke, and my bones burn like a furnace. Okay? This is figurative language that the temple is expressing. The writer is writing as if the temple were alive. My heart is struck down like grass and is withered. I forget to eat my bread. All the day my enemies taunt me. All right. So let's get down to, here we go. Of old, right here. Of old you laid the foundation of the land, and the heavens are the work of your hands. They will perish, but you will remain. They will all wear out like a garment. You will change them like a robe, and they will pass away. But you are the same, and your years have no end. The children of your servants shall dwell secure. Their offspring shall be established before you. What I was trying to look for was the made and established. This might have to be where I'm like conflating two different memories. But here we have the reference. The only time that this happened, of old you laid the foundation of the earth. When did God lay the foundation of the earth? Back in Genesis 1. When were the heavens the work of his hands? Back in Genesis 1. They will perish. Okay? But you will remain. When we get to the New Testament, when Jesus comes on and starts preaching his message, he's talking about a transition that's going to come where you have to change one thing for another. And the language of garments that wear out or wine skins, you can't put new wine into old wineskins. See, the problem with the Bible is that it has so many metaphors for what it is trying to communicate. If it just had one metaphor and used that the whole time, it would be so much simpler. But the Bible is more robust than that. And so it uses allusions and allegories left and right, but it expects you to understand that it's really just unpacking more of one simple idea. Okay? So we see that God is establishing his children. But that's what God did in the creation story. He established, he made. So what I'm trying to say is that we have to take Deuteronomy 32, where we see that God created and made Israel. And then the only other place that God created and made anything was in Genesis chapter 1. But everything in Genesis chapter 1 and everything in Genesis chapter 2 has language that matches up with what Israel understood her story to be. Okay? So we see here that the heavens and the land are designed to be changed over, to be transitioned from one former to the next. Okay, so then what I'm trying to say as well is that in the Bible, in the New Testament, that transition happened in the first century. There's nothing left to be fulfilled in the future, because everything that the Bible was about the past. Has nothing to do with you or me today. Okay? In these last days, the last days of what? The last days of Torah. The last days of the transition between the old heavens and earth and the new heavens and earth. There again, I'm using earth. So what? Okay? So here Hebrews chapter 1 is actually quoting Psalm 102. You, Lord, laid the foundation of the land in the beginning, and the heavens are the work of your hand, but they will perish, but you will remain. So the writer of Hebrews 2,000 years ago is referring to something in his time that he believes is happening, and he's using the Old Testament to provide textual proofs for the fact that these things, this transition is happening right now in these last days, okay? Like a robe, you will roll them up, or like a scroll. Like a garment, they will be changed. When your clothing gets old, it gets changed over. So now we go to chapter 12, still in Hebrews, okay? And listen to what the author refers to. See to it that you do not refuse See to it that you do not refuse him who is speaking. For if they did not escape when they refused him who warned them on the land, much less we will escape if we reject him who warns from heaven. Talking about Moses giving the people a warning, and now we're hearing from Jesus. Jesus is from heaven, Moses is from the land. At that time, his voice shook the land, but now he has promised, yet once more I will shake not only the land, but also the heavens. Remember what I said before. The stability of the heavens and the land represent the health of Israel's leadership. And what the book of Hebrews is talking about is it's explaining the justification for God's judgment on those leaders. He's saying you guys are about to be shaken up by the same God in the past who didn't let his people get away with breaking his covenant. You don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't spit into the wind. You don't pull the mask off of old Lone Ranger, and you don't mess around with God. The writer of Hebrews, along with every other writer in the New Testament, is talking about the coming conclusion to the story. The heavens and the earth that are being shaken in the New Testament are not literal, but figurative. The people are going to be shaken, and there's going to be a new people at the end. The old people are going to be shaken, right? The wheat and the chaff, another metaphor. Okay? This phrase, yet once more, indicates the removal of things that are shaken. That is, the things that have been made, in order that the things that cannot be shaken remain. Therefore, let us be grateful for receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken. Wait a minute. I thought that the heavens and the land were being shaken. And so then, what's going to remain? A kingdom. You see right here, even right here, it's showing you that it's talking about a realm of social, political, religious people. So the term heaven and land is referring to a kingdom, not the physical creation. Let me jump over to the chat real quick. My question to you, Derek, is why do you want it to be both? What evidence do you have that it is both? I tried to say this before, that it's easier to simply understand that the allegory is primary, because the question becomes, if someone wants to say it's literal and it's allegorical, but sometimes the literal can be allegorical and sometimes the allegorical can be, it gets confusing. You lose the ability to say this is literal. Why? Just because I think it is. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. What else can he mean? I'm telling you that when you read the rest of the Bible together and see that God creates, makes, and establishes one thing, and that is a people, then when we see him creating and making and establishing something called the heavens and the land, and when we see the heavens and the land is a refrain that is used elsewhere in the prophets and in the New Testament for people, then that is more evidence that the one part that some people want to hold on to, oh, this part's literal.
No, it's not. You don't have justification for that. So my question to Derek and anyone else is, why do you need it to be both? Oh, I don't need it to be both, Travis. It just is. Okay, great. Now you bear the burden of showing that it is both. When I'm showing you in my understanding that it is not both, I'm saying that it is only one way. It is allegorical. And I've shown, I think, substantially that that the Eretz and the Shemayim are symbolic words for Israel's religious, political, social institution. Okay? So where was I going to go now? I was going to go... okay. This is now going to go to Revelation, not Revelations. Revelation 21. Okay? Then I saw a new heaven and a new land. Now, anyone who was a believing Jew, I really wish that stupid box would not appear. Anyone who was a believing Jew in the first century would have understood what this referred to. Deuteronomy 32, Psalm 102, and Isaiah chapter 1, right? For the first heaven and the first earth passed away. This is exactly what Isaiah 65 said. Isaiah 65 said that, behold, I create new things. The former heaven and land will not be remembered. Okay? So look. Then I saw a new heaven and a new land. And then I saw the holy city. This again is the explanation for what new heaven and new land means. It's referring to the holy city, the New Jerusalem. This is not literal. The former things have passed away. What are the former things? The former things are the law. Okay? This is not talking to the entire world. This is talking exclusively to Israel. The Bible is a book for Israel. It's not a book for the Egyptians. It's not a book for the Babylonians. It's not a book for... It is one people's book. And that people's story, in my opinion, was finished 2,000 years ago. This story reached its completion 2,000 years ago. All of these events in the book of Revelation, all of these events have happened. This is all figurative. This is describing the same thing that happened in the New Testament. A friend of mine, shout out to Michael Loomis, and others believe that the book of Revelation is not a prediction about the future, but is simply an allegory about the same story as Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's another gospel. This is describing the same events that happened in Jesus' time. This is just an allegorical way of describing it. And the only way that this is going to make sense to you, the only way that the book of Revelation is going to make sense to you is if you're familiar with all of the prophets. Because every single ounce of language in Revelation, every single ounce that the author of Revelation uses is based on the Old Testament language. So if you don't understand the Old Testament's language, you're not going to understand this. Everything in the book of Revelation already existed in the prophets. The prophets were the ones that were telling about the future. Revelation is the exclamation point to the propositional statement that is the Old Testament story. This story is complete. It's finished. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. No, it's not for us. No, Isabella, you're gonna not like this. No, the Bible is not for us. has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to say to us except as an indication of what happened in the past. I don't know what you mean by welcome to the end. There's nothing for us to belong to in the Bible's story. All right, I have no idea how long this is going for. This is much, much longer than I was thinking I was going to talk for, but whatever. Yeah, I've got to get out and start doing Uber. What time is it? 12:30. All right. Unless Uber is going to be slow, I'm going to be out doing Uber. So this has been another exciting adventure of Rethinking Revelation on the Ubercast. I'm your host, Travis Finley. Please, if you have, any, I'll try to do this again maybe next week and give it a week's worth of interaction with people who actually listen to the entire video. So next week I'll try to do another live stream where I interact with this and follow up, because I realize I'm not going to be able to say everything as clearly as I want. Man, it is warm in here. Yeah, so there you go. All right. Once again, I appreciate everybody participating here. Please make sure you hit that Fonzarelli, and then also share this content. I would greatly appreciate it. I have been your host, Travis Finley. Until next time.